Yogis, namaste. Welcome back to your practice and to your mat. We're happy to have you back here for our first ever Yin Yoga series at the Hideout. This one is called Homecoming, and essentially, as you may already know, it is a series to help guide you back to your truest, fullest self. So for today's meridian pair, we're focused into your urinary bladder and kidney meridian. And essentially, it runs down the vertical front line of the body, as well as the vertical back line of the body. So the vertical front line is your kidney meridian, whereas the back is your bladder meridian. And this pair focuses into your bladder and your reproductive system, and at the same time, it gives focus into your bones as well. So back pain is very highly associated with imbalance in this meridian pair. So if ever you feel that you have lingering back pain or something that's a little bit more chronic, perhaps it has to do with imbalance for this meridian pair. Okay, at the same time, the emotions that are tied to this meridian pair is the emotion of fear. And with this in mind, we are going to be moving through an affirmation for our practice today. And this affirmation, which I will repeat throughout our practice, is my faith conquers fear. All right, my faith conquers fear. So we're going to get started. And before that, as always, do prepare a bolster, 2 blocks, and you can set the mood like I have over here. And in your own time, let's go ahead and find a nice tall upright spine. So this could be in Sukhasana, cross-legged seats, or maybe it's Virasana, hero's pose. Wherever you may land, take this first few moments to get you settled. Whether you need to just fidget a little, finding your way into stillness here. Know that there is no need to rush. So arrive here in your own time with anything that you need before finding that stillness. So whenever you start to just pause here, can you start to tune into your breaths? Notice the inhales, notice the exhales. And if your eyes are closed, it gives you an opportunity to check in a little more inward, whether it's just noticing how the body feels within, noticing how the breath is moving through you, or you may be noticing something that is a little bit more than the physical body. So just give yourselves maybe about 5 or so breaths here. Noticing how the breath moves at this moment. And then as we progress in our practice today, you may also notice if the breath changes or if it stays exactly the same as it is at this point. Let's give ourselves about 4 more breaths. Three more gentle breaths here. Nothing else to do but to just be on your mat and to just give yourselves this next 20 to 30 minutes to practice. And let's take our last breath here. Now, keeping your eyes closed, you may place one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. Paying attention to the flow of the breath here. Maybe the movements that come along with your breath. And then we'll repeat the affirmation again. You might say it out loud along with me, or you may just have this in your head. My faith conquers fear. My faith conquers fear. Taking just 2 or 3 more breaths, allowing this affirmation to move through us. One last full breath here. And then with the exhale, release the hands. And then just coming back to your tall spine here. Now start to blink the eyes open. Okay, we'll move into our first posture. So take your legs forward. You could support with your hands behind you. Maybe you're extending the legs straight. Maybe you have some space between your 2 feet. Maybe they're close together. Okay, so just take what feels good. Now I will give my feet a bit of space in between. And then from here, finding a tall spine. Okay, so I will use all my props today, and I will also explain the options that you can come into here. We're essentially going to be taking a yin version of your forward fold. So an option here will be to place your 2 blocks and you have them elevated. So maybe one block is higher, then the one that's further away from you is lower. This could mean level 3 for the first block, level 2 for the second block, or level 2 for the first block, level 1 for the second block. Okay, so I'm going to place mine a little bit higher. And then from here, bolster is going to go over the blocks like this. Okay, so I might scoot a little closer. And then in this position, my legs are just wrapping the props in between. And then I'll encourage the body to just fold forward here. I could place my elbows forward. I could just maybe rest my elbows and my arms on top of the bolster without having to take the head anywhere close to it. Or if you feel maybe that you'd like to perhaps come down a little closer to the mat, the option here would be maybe you have 2 blocks. Okay, so without the bolster, maybe your elbows are onto the blocks. Maybe you come down lower, so maybe you're at level 1. The elbows come down onto that 1 block. Okay, you could also do without any props, so maybe your body just folds forward, your hands could rest on your thighs. Maybe the hands are on the floor in between the knees. But know that your yin practice is always a little scaled back from whatever is your range of motion. Now, another option here would be to just place the bolster over the thigh, the width of the bolster, and then hands to rest. Okay, so you just allow your head and neck to soften. Take whatever feels good here and know that you can pause this video just to explore what feels best in the body here. And then once you found your variation, we'll take stillness. Now, wherever you may land in your forward fold is this opportunity to find space into the back line of the body. So essentially, this posture focuses into your bladder meridian. So a lot of emphasis into the entire back line of the body here. Okay, so you might feel a sense of rounding, and that may start from the head already. So from the crown of the head, you could start to feel this down back of the head, back of the neck, and then down towards the upper back, the mid back, the lower back, all the way down to your seat. And this may also extend to the back of your legs, your hamstrings, all the way down to your heels. So this one posture alone is completely highlighting the meridian pathway of your bladder meridian. Let's give ourselves about 8 slow breaths here. And as you find stillness, encourage the body to soften, especially the parts that may be a little tense or that may be activating without us even realizing it. If you do notice that the body is activating or is turning on, especially the muscles, see if you're able to just guide that down into softness. We've got about 6 to 7 more breaths here. You may close down your eyes. Removing that visual aspect sometimes helps us to detach a little further from the aesthetic aspect of the yin practice. So it does not matter what it looks like. It matters more where you're feeling it, sensations in the body, and also how the posture makes you feel. Let's take about 5 to 6 more breaths. We'll take just 4 more breaths here. Last 2 breaths. Now with your next exhale, just start to lift the upper body away from your props. Open up your eyes gently, removing your props off to the side. So just clearing space in front of you. And then just finding a tall spine, returning to your upright seat. Give yourselves a moment here. Spine is tall. Body is soft. Eyes may close down again here. Take about 3 to 4 breaths. Notice any rebound sensations after releasing from that posture. And just 2 to 3 more breaths. Last breath here. Now gently begin to open your eyes. Okay, now we're going to re-extend the 2 legs forward again. So this time you'll prepare 1 block close by in case you need it. I'm going to lean off to the right so that the body weight shift towards the right so that you can bend into the left knee. Bring the left foot in by the side of your left hip. Okay, so we're moving into your half saddle position. That could mean maybe your left knee is forward or left knee is slightly opened up. Okay, so feel free to adjust here. Just checking that your left knee, left ankle feels comfortable. And know that the option for the half saddle, which we will go into shortly, the option for that will be to just grab your block, lift your hips, slide the block under, and then you could stay right here. So the body remains upright throughout this posture. Okay, so this will be your option whenever you feel any of the variations that are to come, they do not feel the most comfortable. You can always come back here. Okay, so if you're coming into your half saddle position, you might lean your hands back, so chest will be extended. And you could stay right here, so adjust the hands. They could be wider, they could be further away from your hips. And you could drop your head back. Okay, if you're comfortable here and you'd like to maybe lower down onto your elbows, we'll just test first. Maybe 1 elbow and then 2 elbows. Maybe it's comfortable here, but just give it maybe 1 or 2 breaths. Notice how it feels first. Then again, you could drop the head back. The final option here, only if it's comfortable again in your body, and you could always come back up into any of the previous versions whenever you need to, is to take your hands slightly forward, closer towards your left foot. So elbows are coming down. Maybe your body lowers onto the mat. So your head rests all the way down. And if you're comfortable here, your hands could even go up overhead, either holding on to opposite wrists or opposite elbows. So finding your version of half saddle, and again, if you're down here and it does not feel sustainable in the body, you could always prop up onto your elbows again, lifting up either onto your elbows or onto your hands, or sitting up tall with a block underneath your hips. Now wherever you may land, we'll give ourselves maybe about 6 to 8 breaths on each side. And know that this posture is one that takes time. So if this is your first few times or first few moments in this posture, discomfort is a pretty common thing to feel, whether it's the top of the thighs, whether it's into the knee or into the foot, the ankle, wherever you may feel, just know that The practice encourages this sense of patience, a sense of just finding space with time. Let's take about 5 to 6 more breaths on this side. And then check in again with the affirmation. My faith conquers fear. My faith conquers fear. Pay attention to what that means to you, the immediate response that the brain and the body gives you when you hear this line or this phrase. Just about 4 more breaths here. Last 3 easy breaths. And just one last breath here. Now, if you are all the way down onto your back, release the arms down by your side if it's reaching overhead. Prop the elbows down onto the mat. And we'll start by lifting the head, tucking the chin in, and then elbows start to press down, lifting up, palms on the mat. Okay, so all the way back up into a tall seat. Lean the weight off towards the right, release the left leg forward. Okay, if you're seated all the way upright, release the block and then come down. Take the left leg forward as well. Now from here, just give yourselves a moment. You might support with your hands, just rolling out the ankles, especially the left. Give yourselves a moment here. Just maybe about 2 to 3 breaths in between. And then come back center. Let's go ahead and switch sides. So I'm just going to turn to the other side. This time leaning the weight off towards the left so that we can bend right knee in, right foot towards the side of the hip. Okay, so the key thing to note here is that this may not feel the same onto both sides of the body. Maybe the side you'd prefer for the knee to be wider. Maybe the side you'd prefer to sit up onto your block. Okay, so feel free to just lift the hips, sliding a block under, and then staying here throughout the next couple breaths. All right, maybe if this side you have a little bit more space to work with in the physical body, you could take the hands back behind you. Maybe the elbows come down. Maybe the body lowers onto the mat as you walk the elbows downward. Let the back rest all the way down. Okay, maybe your hands reach up overhead. And then from here, before you settle into stillness, just make sure that you're doing a check-in with your physical body. And then just registering if this particular variation is the one that you are settling with here. Once you've found your position, we'll take about 6 to 8 breaths. We'll soften out. Once again, it could be pretty physical once you get into the posture. Notice what you notice here. Then eventually start to release that observation and see if you're able to just allow the body to be and allow for you to just find presence on the mat without too much of awareness and too much of just judgment internally. Just about 5 to 6 more breaths. And just about 4 more breaths here. Still in your stillness. Now, this particular posture, your half saddle, focuses into the front line of the body as you may be feeling at this moment here, which gets into your kidney meridian pathway. Now take about 3 more breaths. Last breath here. And we'll begin to guide ourselves back up. Release the hands down. Those who are on your backs, prop up onto your elbows, tuck the chin in. Begin to lift yourselves up. Hands press onto the mat. Lean to the left so you could release the right leg forward again. If you're seated upright, release the block. Release the right leg forward. Okay, so same thing here, supporting with your hands behind you. Just rolling out your ankles, releasing any form of tension or just making space for your joints here. 1 or 2 more breaths. And now this time, find your way back center. We'll lie straight down onto our mat. So if you're not in the middle of your mat, go ahead and scoot. We'll take our bodies all the way down, lying onto your backs. You may start to get comfortable here. So if you have a hair tie or anything like that, you could remove that, your glasses, and just give yourself a moment to find Shavasana first. Let your hands and your feet take up a bit more space. Just about 2 to 3 breaths here. You may soften out through the shoulders, the facial muscles, the space in between your eyebrows, your forehead, your temples. Let's do 2 more breaths. Last breath here. Now from here, let's go ahead and step both feet onto the mat. You might lengthen the lower back underneath of you. And then we'll come into figure 4. So allow your right ankle to cross over the left knee. And then allow that right knee to open up very naturally to the side without any sense of effort or force. And the right foot is soft, so you don't have to flex the foot at all. Just breathe here and notice how this feels all the way down to your glutes. 1 or 2 more breaths. Now softly from here, we'll start to lift the left foot away from the mat. So the knees are either pointing upward to the ceiling or the knees are coming close towards the chest. Okay, know that this is a space that you can come back to whenever the following options may not feel suitable in the body today. You can always come back here with the hands down by the side. Now from here, you'll explore the option of taking right hand just underneath the right shin. There's a little space in between. You might interlace with the left hand just behind the left knee. So this will bring the knees closer in towards the chest, and this might intensify the sensations around your right glute, right outer hip. Okay, you might also feel a little into your lower back. So this would be a position that you can be in, or you could take the interlace on top of the left shin instead. Okay, so this would get even more intense. But as you move through these options and you're trying them out, know that you can always return to a previous variation. And that also includes releasing the hands fully down by the side of the body. Okay, so wherever you may land, finding your way into stillness. And the key thing here is noticing that the lower spine stays pressing down or stays resting onto the mat. So we're not lifting the hips, we're not over rounding into the sacrum, and we're just encouraging a sense of heaviness around the parts of the body that are touching the mat. Shoulders are also soft here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll find stillness. We'll be in this one for just about 5 breaths. Anytime that you feel that you may need to switch it to something else, know that you can, whether it's adjusting the interlace elsewhere or releasing the hands fully down by the side of the body. This is our final posture of our practice today, with just 4 more breaths on this side. Begin to notice whether it feels a little bit more physical at this point, or you're able to maybe detach from the physical experience and just encourage the body to find just a sense of space. 3 more breaths. Last breath here. And with your exhale, if you have an interlace, release the interlace, arms down. Step the left foot back down onto the mat. Release the figure 4, right foot onto the mat. You could be here, or you could give yourself a moment in Shavasana, extending your 2 legs straight down the mat again. We'll take maybe about 2 breaths, maybe 3. Just finding a sense of ease before we move over to the second side. Now you can keep your eyes closed if it's comfortable. Begin to rebend the knees, feet return onto the mat. Let's switch our figure 4 to the left side. And so left ankle crosses over the right knee. And once again, the foot remains soft as the knee peels open on its own, just enough to feel that external rotation of the hip without a sense of effort. Take maybe 1 or 2 more breaths here first. And then gently we'll start to lift right foot away from the mat. Okay, so just testing how this feels without the hands in place first. So maybe the knees are close to the chest, maybe the knees are upward to the ceiling. And then you might take left hand to thread under the left shin, and then finding your version of an interlace here. Once again, because your hips may not be equal on both sides, it may look different on this side. So maybe you release the interlace, maybe you take your hands over the right shin. Once you found your position, can you soften out lower back, sacrum, shoulders onto the mat. Last 5 breaths here. Just another 3 more breaths. Anytime you need to adjust, feel free to adjust. We're almost at our Shavasana. Last 2 here. And take your last breath. Begin to release hands, right foot, left foot. Shavasana from here, 2 legs extending long towards the front of your mat. Make any final adjustments and then give yourselves the space and time to just rest and to soften all the parts of your body here. Shavasana. Yogis, I will leave you here as the closing of our practice today. If you have the time and if you have the space to just be here a little longer, I invite you wholeheartedly to pause and to stay in your Shavasana, even if it's just for another 5 more breaths. And give yourself the opportunity to just rest. Otherwise, you will slowly find your way up in your own time. And then we will close our practice here. So whether you are staying a little longer in Shavasana or you're closing your practice, I will leave you here until our next session. Namaste, yogis.